Police and soldiers were overwhelmed and racing through streets packed with frenzied protesters running in all directions. What if Dawit were there amidst those running? What if he were wheeled into his operating room? Hailu focused on the limp body in front of him, ignored his own hammering heart, and put thoughts of his younger son out of his mind. Hailu sat in his office under a pale light that threaded its way through open curtains. He stared at his hand lying palm open in his lap and felt the solitude and panic that had been eating into the edges of his days since his wife Salam had gone into the hospital. 7 days of confusion, and he'd just operated on a boy for a gunshot wound to the back. After years as a doctor, he knew the rotations and shifts of his staff, the scheduled surgeries in any given week, Prince Makunan Hospital's daily capacity for new patients. But he could not account for his wife's deteriorating condition and this relentless drive of students who demanded action to address the country's poverty and lack of progress. They asked again and again when Ethiopia's backward slide into the Middle Ages would stop. He had no answers, could do nothing but sit and gaze in helplessness at an empty hand that looked pale and thin in the afternoon sun. He feared for Dawit, his youngest son, who also wanted to enter the fray, who was not much older or bigger nor more brave than his permanently crippled patient today. His wife was leaving him to carry the burden of these days alone. There was a knock at his door. He looked at his watch, a gift given to him by Emperor Haile Selassie when he'd returned from medical school in England. The Emperor's piercing eyes, rumoured to hold the power to break any man's will, had bore into Hailu during the special palace ceremony to honour young graduates recently returned from abroad. "Do not waste your hours and minutes on foolish dreams," the Emperor had said, his voice cool and crisp. "Make Ethiopia proud." The knock came again. "Dr. Hailu," Almaz said. "Come in," Hailu said, turning in his chair to face the door. "You finished your shift." She stood in the doorway. "You're still here." Almaz, in her usual custom, turned all her questions into declarations. She cleared her throat and adjusted the collar of her white nurse's uniform. She matched him in height, very tall for a woman. "There was a teachers' union strike," he said. "The Emperors forbid the police to shoot at anyone, but look what happened already." He sighed tiredly. "I want to make sure no other emergencies come in. And I need to check on Salam soon." Almaz raised a hand to stop him. "I've already checked on her. She's sleeping." "There's nothing for you to do here anymore," she said. "You've already done your shift. Go home." "My sons have to see her," Hailu said. "I'll go and come back." Almaz shook her head. "Your wife always complained about your stubbornness." She took his coat from the hanger on the door and held it out for him. "You've been working too hard this week. You think I haven't noticed?" Almaz was his most trusted colleague. They had been working together for nearly 2 decades. He could feel her searching his face. The rattle of a heavy falling object echoed in the corridor. It was coming from beyond the swinging doors, from the intensive care unit. "What was that?" Hailu asked. He stood up and walked over to get his coat. It was then he realized how tired he was. He hadn't eaten since the night before in Selam's room, and he'd spent the entire day operating. Almaz shook her head and led him out of his office. She closed the door gently behind them and motioned him towards the exit. "I'll tell you later, something with one of the prisoners." In the last few weeks, the ICU ward, headed by another doctor, had become the designated location for some of the Emperor's officials. Old men well past their prime who had been arrested without charges and had fallen ill while in prison because of pre-existing ailments and lack of medical supervision. So far the hospital had been able to function normally, no irregular activity to bring undue attention to their new, special patients. From the direction of the noise came an angry male voice, a sharp slap, then a soft whimper. "What's going on?" he asked again, turning around. "They've got soldiers watching one of them," Almaz said.